let's begin our discussion for chapter 11. I think this is a really interesting chapter. Did you notice anything special about this chapter compared to the previous ones? Sorry, use the microphone. It's behind Jenny.
I'm Jenny. It is shorter.
Okay. What else?
It's like about Grandpa. It's like the first piece of evidence or clue that we know about Grandpa.
Interesting. Okay. What else do you notice?
It almost doesn't mention Tara's dad, if I doesn't remember wrong, and like Tara herself play a bit more role in this chapter.
All right. Okay. Compared to the previous ones, who was in the main character?
Yeah,
Say in chapter 9.
The previous ones.
Yeah. Who's the main character in chapter 9?
Chapter 9. Which one is chapter 9?
Oh, it's the Y2K thing.
Oh, that's Dad. Dad.
Okay.
I think in most chapters there's Dad or Dad and Mom or yeah.
This chapter mostly focused on the brother and sister relationships between Sean and Tara.
Okay. Weixin, did you want to say something?
They said what I wanted to say.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I feel like this is one of the first chapters that it talks about like interaction, like nearly like the whole story. Like it also talks about like interaction with like her and some like other character in some other chapters, but this entire chapter is about her and how and horses and some incidents and yeah, basically just them interacting.
What would you say is the most important character in this chapter?
Sean.
Okay. Any other different opinions other than Tara and Sean?
Horses. Yeah, horses.
Okay. So the question is horses more important than the two other characters? Which one took the most
The two
writing?
characters. The two characters. Like especially the interactions between the two characters.
Oh, interesting.
I feel like they're actually 50-50.
Okay, explain.
Like, horses, it's kind of like the reason of their interaction. Like, the interaction between the two characters is important, but it's because of the horses that they are interacting. Like, Sean is basically teaching Tara how to, like, ride the horses. So, like, I'm pretty sure they're equally as important. And Sean, like, when her horse was going, like, berserk, Sean came, like, to save her, which Tara originally thought was like impossible, and also how like Tara was she writes the book, so I'm pretty sure they're like 50-50 for like each one.
I sort of agree with Jenny. So what I see the horses as is like a tool that shows that that changes like the relationship and how they interact like between Tara and Sean. Because before Tara was like view Sean as like a legend, and now Sean is more like a brother to her.
How like Tara and Sean's like relationship got like deeper because before like Tara said that Sean was more like a stranger other than a brother to her because she hasn't like seen or like been with Sean for like a period of time, and he wasn't like mentioned that much in the first like in a few chapters before, so it's like it can be like to help them get a better relationship and also like mention their grandpa like a little bit.
It's always interesting to hear your perspective because this is the second time that I read the book. I already know the whole plot and what happens next. So when I read this chapter for the second time, I see different things than when I read it for the first time. So it's very interesting to hear your perspectives, your takes on this. Go ahead.
I think just go to the first question is like, is it what is who is the main character? I think it's hard to say because Tara and Sean is mostly it's both talking about Tara and Sean's relationship and Tara and Horse's relationship and Sean and Horse's relationship. So I think if we see Horse as a character, I think they're like Tara got 30% and Sean got 30%. Tara's horse got 30%, and Sean's horse came a little too late. So I think it's not that much important.
Very interesting. I was just about to ask you to do a more quantitative analysis about what took how many percent. Okay, so if let's just focus on horse for 1 second. So how much of the writing would you say are allocated for horses? 45. Okay. Others who hasn't spoken yet? Who hasn't spoken yet? You guys are very talkative, so you will have plenty of chances, okay? How about we hear from Jessie? And then Wendy.
Yeah, I agree. Like it is about 45%. And
tell us how you came up with that number, 45.
Like she used a lot of description for the horse, but I think the most important things she want to develop and emphasize through this chapter is like the interaction and the change between the relationship change between she and Sean. So yeah.
Okay, so are you saying that you agree with William and Jesse that horse is a tool to show how the relationship between Tara and her brother deepens?
Maybe. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Wendy, what do you think?
I feel like it's mostly Sean and Tara's interactions because we get to know Sean much better. But then it's also important because it's the first hint of Grandpa down the hill and how we know, like, how did the family know him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's talk about Grandpa here, because both Coco and Wendy mentioned about Grandpa. So when a writer organizes a book or a chapter, when Tara chooses to write Grandpa for the first time in detail, I think every character serves a certain function in the book. What would you say what is the function of introducing Grandpa here in chapter 11? After all the things have happened previously, why here? Why now?
I feel like Grandpa is sort of like a comparison of, like from Grandpa to Sean because at the start of the chapter, Tara usually mostly says how Grandpa is like a legend, and how what he used to do, what Grandpa used to like take them to do, and then later on, she basically used Grandpa to introduce Sean like in a new way, like the new Sean.
Interesting. How many of you agree with Jesse's point that Grandpa serves the function for the introduction for Sean? If you agree or partly agree, raise your hand. Okay, so almost all agree. Interesting.
Wendy didn't.
Wendy, what's your opinion?
Okay. All right, because I disagree.
That's fine.
He has a microphone.
Before I speak, I just want to see if you can guess what my take would be. I agree with the part that Grandpa serves as an introduction, just not for Sean.
I think perhaps it's possible that Grandpa is kind of like an introduction to the horses.
Okay, tell us more.
It's like I remember Tara said that Grandpa he had many horses, and the story that Grandpa had with these horses, and so I think it's from Grandpa that the horses appeared in the whole story. So, like I said, if we see the horse as a character, we can infer that Grandpa was perhaps the key to show this character.
Okay, I don't want to comment too much because once I say something, you became quiet, or you have something to say, but after I say something, you wouldn't say it. I don't want you to take my opinion as the only correct answer. That's just my take. So if you disagree with me, that's perfectly okay and natural, okay? Okay, go ahead.
I think the grandpa mostly is for leads up to the chapters, because we can see in paragraph 4 in the first page of the chapter it says, but feral horses don't yield easily, not even a man like Grandpa. So it's not like horses or either Tara or Sean. I think it's just about the whole story to see that, yeah, kind of.
Okay. Rishin has been awfully quiet this seminar. Do you have anything to comment on, or do you have any question you would like to discuss?
No.
Why not? Do you find this chapter interesting or boring?
I think it's okay.
So not very interesting, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because I want to get to the part where Tara is like, where like she changes. When she changes, then she goes to school and her
Interesting.
whole
Okay.
personality changes. I want to get to that part. And these are all like parts where she's in that changing period.
You cannot just jump through the process and skip to the end.
But that's why I'm saying that it's not bad, but it's not the best.
Okay. Coco, how about you?
Is it
Microphone.
or what? What's the question?
I don't know. Anything you want to say?
Referring to that question, it's not. I don't think it's the best chapter because, like, same as you, like, it's the process of her change. I really want to see her finally realizing that there's no good staying with Dad.
Okay. So, go ahead. No, you go.
Personally, I think this was one of the most interesting and deepest chapters yet. First, when we take a look at the chapter name, Instinct, I think that Grandpa, in this chapter at least, I'm not sure about the rest of the book, but at this chapter, Grandpa serves almost as a direct comparison to Sean himself. In this chapter, we see that Sean, when taming horses, he's gentle with them, he's calm, he approaches them slowly, which is basically the opposite of what we see Sean as before this. We've seen him as violent, rash, he likes to tease children, he likes to be a ruffian. While Grandpa was taming them for sport, he was breaking them in forcefully. And I think that with the comparisons of the horses in this chapter, we can almost compare Sean to a horse. Horses in this chapter are seen as powerful, free, proud, and these are all traits that Sean has displayed in the past 2 chapters. So I think that this chapter, even if it's not the most interesting, the most glamorous, it's one of the chapters that really contributes to Tara's growth as a person, as what she understands as her family.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. 再有 you are always 语出惊人. So when you don't speak, you are all quiet, and then when you speak, I think this is the charm of having a seminar. So it's like we are a lake, and then someone throws a rock into the lake, and it inspires us. Okay, it ripples. So I think what Dio just said should have inspired something or some new thoughts or things in your head. So, yeah, if you have anything to add to that, go ahead. Don't raise your hand, just ask for the mic.
I want to add that because I'm in electronic firms, I don't know what page it is.
Okay, before you go, just mention, do you like his comment?
I really like Zhao's comment.
But he said a lot of things, so just mention which part
Okay.
connects with you the most, and then begin your
I
thoughts.
really agree with Zhao's part about Sean's, how he treated Horace and how they have the same personalities between Sean and horses.
Okay.
And I want to add a few points about Sean. It says, I don't know which page this is, sorry. It says, if he was challenged, and he usually wasn't, he would play the part of the ruffian, hardened "what you gotta do about it" expression discussing his face. But after, when it was just the two of us, the mask lowered, the bravado peeled off like a breastplate, and he was my brother. I think that's a really interesting part about Sean and how he changes his characters through, like from chapter 9 and 10. From chapter 9 and 10, he's been like kind of a violent but childish guy, but now he's more like a brother of Tara.
Are you going to talk about Sean?
Yes. Both
Go
Sean
ahead.
and the horse. I'm going to talk about both Sean and the horse. Referring to William's idea, I think I basically agree. Sean, I think Sean is like a horse, like Zhao said. He's proud, he's powerful. So I think the way that he was kind of violent is like when when humans approach his horse, the horse will like because the horse just like the humans, they think that they're different. So the horse seems to be violent. But like when uh, when Sean was being with the horse, it's like being with his own kind. So he's gentle, he's kind. And also talking about the horse, like I first said, I think the horse is like a character. So yeah, I think horse here was like uh, the horse here was like Sean. He was the horse was the proud, the powerful, and after tamed, the horse can be calm, can be also very gentle, very kind. So I think from the horse we can compare Sean to the horse and know about Sean and the horse much deeper.
Okay. Before we move on, I just want to comment on William's part. William, you mentioned about the mask that Sean is wearing. So let's focus on Sean for a moment. I think in the chapter somewhere, Tara described how Sean behaves differently in front of her when he's with her or with other younger kids in town.
Yeah.
Right? And then I think there's a line that says that Sean takes her mask off when he's with Tara. Do you think that's the case? Or do you think that the more violent one is the true Sean? Someone who hasn't spoken a lot yet.
It says the mask off, so with the mask on is obviously not the real one.
But that's Tara's take. Right? What's your take?
But that's like Sean in front of like other people.
Or there's also the third possibility that both are the real ones. There's no mask, right?
Okay, so I thought that maybe it would be like kind of like a dichotomy where like the person has like two sides. Like one side would be like the very violent side that we first are like known to, that like Tara first talks about, where he is the violent dude. And then there's also in this chapter where we see like another side of him, like the more gentler, the not as violent, and the caring brother. Pretty much.
As he said, as Sean said, he said he wanted out of his old life, like away from what he was before. We're not really sure that what he was before, but he definitely wanted a good role model to her sister. So he would like take his mask off when he like was with Tara, but when he was not with Tara, then he would like show his other side. He as a big brother, well, as a 合格的 big brother, then he would definitely like show the good side of him to play a good role model to his sister.
I want to say that actually there's a changing happening on Sean. It was his main side. The violent side was his main side on the previous chapters, but on the few chapters that we had before. But in this chapter, he's been changing himself into a more warm or gentle, like a big brother. We can see it from like Sean said he wanted out of his old life, and the first step was to stay away from his friend. And they mentioned the first step, which means Sean is trying to changing himself from a violent guy to a big brother. And also, he says he's been giving advice to Tara while he driving Tara to the theater, like, which is mostly don't do what I did. So that's I think Sean is trying to both telling Tara and both telling himself about his past. He don't want to redo his past again because he know that it's bad, and as a brother, he wants to tell Tara that don't do these things. So it's a changing on the character.
Okay.
I agree with William that that on his point where he said that Sean is changing, because it also says Sean said he wanted out his old life, and I think that by old life he is referring to the past violent, powerful, like that bullied him, and like that new life is that kind brother he is to Tara. And then it was what William said, and that the first step was to stay away from his friends.
Make a 15-second comment, and then we move on to the next question.
In my opinion, I think Sean isn't changing. I just make a comparison. It's like a soldier can be a soldier in a war, but he can be a father at home. So when Sean's with his other people outside, he might be violent. But when he's with Tara and he's with the horses, he can be gentle.
You mean he's a loving wolf, right? He's aggressive, but when he's with family, he can be kind.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, let's move on. Let's just go over the chapter from the start to finish, okay? So here are some questions that I wrote while I read the chapters, the paragraphs. So turn to paragraph 6. I don't know what page that should be, page 2, I think. Paragraph 6. We never triumphed. Our strength of will faltered long before theirs. We got some so they wouldn't buck when they saw the saddle, and a few who tolerated human on their back for jaunts around the corral. But not even Grandpa dared ride them on the mountain. Their natures hadn't changed. They were pitiless, powerful avatars from another world. To mount them was to surrender your footing, to move into their domain, to risk being borne away. What were you thinking when you first read this paragraph? Zayo seems to have something to say. Yep, we never triumphed. We never triumphed.
I have nothing to say.
You are laughing. There's a reason why you laugh.
I can't find it.
It describes the horses here almost as if they are forces of nature rather than living organisms. And I thought back to what we said previously about Sean being like a horse and like Sean being violent yet still calm, and I thought that like this might also be foreshadowing about Sean's character.
Interesting. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left, so I will just point you to the more important, the part that I think is more important. So, do you know what a motif is? It's a literary device. How many literary devices have you learned? What's a motif? It's like a repeating theme or repeating keyword, okay, among different chapters. So when you read this paragraph, what word choice seems, yeah. If you choose one word, what would you say is a repeating word that Tara has chosen to use?
Like in this paragraph specifically, or
Yes,
throughout the book?
just this paragraph.
No. I mean, like, the word repeating, does it have to be like this chapter specifically?
No,
or
just
throughout the book?
in the
Okay.
first 11 chapters.
So in my annotations, I actually wrote like Tara likes to use the phrase "from another world" a lot.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure.
Why would you think
Because
that's
in
special?
previous chapters, there's always like, for example, when Tara went to the theater for like Annie or for like singing and stuff. So she's like, the kids were like from another world. And also, I forgot what other cases are there, but I just remember like her saying this like multiple times, or her like indirectly saying it.
Before we move on to the next person, Jesse, tell us more. So do you think there's a connection between this world here about the horses, right? Wait, yeah. And the other characters mentioned that has appeared in the book so far.
I don't know, it seems like a comparison. So like, for example, the kids, the city.
Who do you think
kids.
she's comparing to?
Comparing what to what?
Is she making a comparison here? Okay, think about it, Jenny.
Okay, so I didn't think of like from another world, but I agree with Jessie. Like, throughout the past few chapters, she's been like, getting into more contact with the other world, aka like things that she hasn't like been in contact with before because, well, mainly her father and her religion. So I think it like links very well.
What's her way of connecting with the other world? So Tara's original world was their house, right? Her parents' house and the junkyard, right? That's her world. And when did she came out of her comfort zone and go into the real world, the other world? When did that start? What chapter? It was dancing, then singing, right? So dancing is the first time she stepped out of her original world, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then she entered another world. And here she mentions about that the horses seems to be from another world, right? Are there connections here, or is just a pure coincidence?
I think there might be. I think Tara is like moving from his own world, her own world to another and another new world. So it's like she's making her world like bigger. She's going into the outside world, and also I'm not sure if I remember it correctly. It's like I think the frequency of she steps out of her home is like more and more frequent. So I think that could be like Tara is perhaps she's changing herself.
I don't really agree with Richard's idea. So I would like to just focus on the paragraph we have mentioned before. It says their nature hadn't changed. They were pitiless, powerful avatars from another world. So I was focusing on the sentence, their natures hadn't changed at the first time I read this paragraph. And when I mentioned the phrase "another world," and I kind of just connected with the sentence there, nature hadn't changed. This is more like saying that Terra's. Am I going way too far? I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that Tara is trying to comparing her world, which we can go deeper into her family or her parents, comparing to the outside world. And since their natures hadn't changed, this can both
Whose
reflect.
nature hasn't changed?
I'm saying this can both reflect on Tara's family's nature, her parents, the Mormon nature, or the nature of the outside world, the nature she wants to follow.
Okay.
I'm kind of going way too far.
I will not comment on that for the moment, but we will come back to you. Okay. So, do you find it weird that suddenly she begins to describe horses? What was the last chapter about? Is it year 2K car accident?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, and before that it was dancing and singing.
Yeah. My feeling doesn't connect to the previous chapter, but I think connect to like the paragraph that describes the horses. It's like she described horses like in a very positive way, like powerful. Some words, not all words, powerful, but the it feels like the horses are very kind of good creatures, but the other words that used on the connection between humans and horses is kind of interesting. They're not so friendly. So this is interesting to see both kind of words appearing to a same thing, that's horses.
Okay, a quick comment. Go ahead, Rishin.
Just one really, really small point. You talked about how the two chapters didn't connect, but I disagree with that. Like from the micro picture, of course it didn't connect because they talk about completely different things. But from the macro picture, it talks about Tara's like changing process, her growth, how she's growing, and I think that they connect really well.
I mean, my opinion doesn't connect with. That doesn't mean the character.
Can you say more? What is the connection here? Or it's just a feeling? Do you have more specific?
Both of them involve Tara's interaction with Sean, and
Alright.
both of them is like the process of Tara's growth.
Okay, good point. We have to move on. We only have about 7 minutes left. So, the paragraphs that I just read, about 6 paragraphs after that, find this paragraph. An hour later, the saddle was cinched. Did you find this paragraph? Sean said it was time to mount. It starts with an hour later, the saddle was cinched. All right, and then Sean said it was time to mount, and I climbed onto the barn roof, sure the quarrel would descend into violence. Coco can continue to read.
But when Sean helped himself into the saddle, the yearling merely skittered. His thought better of it, then he dropped his head and his paws stilled. In the space of a moment, he had accepted our claim to ride him, to his being ridden. He had accepted the world as it was, in which he was an old thing.
Okay, stop here. You see the world again, right? So he kept on mentioning this word, the world, the world, the world. All right, so 6 paragraphs later, who was tamed? What's the difference between the horses that wouldn't be tamed and this one? Why would Yearling be tamed and the others, wild horses, not tamed? I already told you the answer. Sorry.
The main reason why the yearling could be tamed and the wild horses couldn't was because apparently the wild horses had experienced the freedom of being wild, and so they couldn't go and be owned, be ridden when there was a different world in which they could live, in which they were free to do whatever they wanted.
Okay, and how was Yearling raised?
Richard.
I remember Yearling was raised like after Yearling's born, it is trained by I don't know who, but so we can for like because Tara also mentioned the world here, so it's like
Can you
those
point to the?
horses.
Oh, you don't have the text. So, Richard, you have a lot of brilliant ideas, but you have to refer to the text. Okay.
Okay,
When you
in the
speak.
previous
So, and we are
place.
running out of time, so I will just point you to the answer. So, about I don't know, several paragraphs before it says the first domesticated horse I ever saw was a bay gelding. It was standing next to the coral, nibbling sugar cubes from Sean's hand. So this horse is not a wild horse. It was born and raised by human. It has never been set free in the natural world. So it can be tamed. So people can ride it safely, relatively. Go ahead.
Just very short comment. Now I think the tamed horse refers to Tara, and the wild horse refers to the outside world.
Okay, interesting. What do you think?
One sentence.
Yeah.
I think the tamed the yearling is tamed, so it's from like the same world with humans. The wild horse isn't tamed, so they are like from the other world.
William, can you repeat your comment just now, loud, more clearly?
The tamed horse refers to Tara because she's been accepting the Mormon religion since she was born, as same as the tamed horse has been tamed by humans, so that it trusted in human, and the wild horses reflects to the outside world about
Outside world or people in the outside
yeah
world?
freedom and or Sean yeah. Okay.
Did you just realize that?
No, I realized it.
Okay. So Dial's comment was really good. I found the most interesting thing that you said was the comparison between the horses and Sean. Okay, but my feeling when I first read this chapter is the strong connection between Tara and the yearling. How many of you have seen the connection? You have picked out, understand the connection here.
Understand just now.
Okay, good. That's progress. So you have to wonder because it's a very weird jump from the year 2K to suddenly horses, right? It's a big jump, right? There's no connection, direct connection here. So you have to assume that there is some connection between all these scenes about horses and Tara, right? Who's the main character in this book? So you can just assume everything is somehow related to Tara. Yes. Sean can be a very important character too, but why would she write about Sean?
Because Sean has an influence on her.
Yes. Okay. And so I think if we divide this chapter into two parts according to the horses, we can divide them into the one type of horse, the wild horses, and then the how do you call this? Domesticated horses, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then there's the last part. We're running out of time. Why would she mention the part that who was she writing when the horse went berserk? Is it Yearling?
Yes, she's writing Yearling and Sean's writing another horse.
Okay, so is there any implications there, hidden meanings? Why the domestic horses went berserk?
Oh wait, she's not writing Yearling, another team horse, but also a team horse.
Okay.
I remember his name is Bud.
Is she just writing that part for the sake of how Sean saved her from the accident?
No.
Or about her instinct? Or there's another deeper meaning about... Sometimes an accident is just an accident. Sometimes there is a hidden meaning beneath there. What do you think? I don't have an answer for this, so it's open discussion. Why would she describe this accident?
From 2 points of view, I think the first one is like Tara's writing Bud is like tamed and Sean and his horse is untamed. That's like what we just said. The second point is like it could be like it said Tara trusts Sean very much when her horse went wild. So it could be like a relationship between Tara and Sean. So both.
I think we have to carry on our discussion tomorrow because I feel that we didn't finish this. So, but good point there. Let's continue tomorrow, okay?